guys, it's Nora and I am back with a bit of an update, and as you guys can see by the title of the video, I finally gave birth. And I wanted to come on here. It's been 2.5 weeks since I gave birth, and I wanted to come on and share it with you guys because I haven't really shared any content. Oh, you're gonna be able to hear him. He's in his little swing in the corner, by the way. If you guys like hear, he's a grunty, gassy, snorty kind of man, and it's been pretty quiet in here, so the fact that I'm talking is probably gonna wake him up a little bit. I haven't shared any content on here because essentially we were just waiting for baby to come, and baby came 2.5 weeks ago, although when I post this, it's gonna be probably way farther out, but I did want to come on here and share the story. I've been wanting to post it since it happened, but it kind of mentally screwed me up a little bit. It's been hard for me to process it and the way it went down, and I'm gonna try not to cry during this video because then I'm gonna take a break. But I do want to share it. I do want to preface that in no way, shape, or form really were baby or I ever in any danger during the birth, but the way it went down, and I did not have a birth plan. My plan was to go with the flow because as someone who was a NICU nurse, births never go to plan. I thought of every complication that possibly could have happened and like how it would be addressed, and I was like mentally prepared for that stuff. I was not mentally prepared for how it went down. So it's taken 2.5 weeks for my brain to process it and to like work through it, and I feel like I'm in a good place now to where I could share it. I did type it out on Facebook, so if you're a family member who read it on Facebook, it's practically gonna be the same thing, but like a little more detailed because I didn't want to make the post like too long and like bore people on Facebook because it kind of was a long post. But again, there will be more details in this video. But it was a baby boy, and we named him Henry Atticus Divine. Just my last name, not Jacob's last name. And if you would like to see more content, because I'm not going to show him in this video, you can go over to my TikTok because I have posted stuff on TikTok. I'll probably remove it from my bio. I had my Instagram and Facebook on my little description below. For family drama reasons, those have been removed and put on private, or not been removed, but they've just been put on private. So I'm gonna remove them from my description because no one can actually see any of that content anymore. But again, I will be posting more videos of him over on TikTok. So if you guys wanna see content of him, go over there and see him on there, and I will post my username down below. I do also wanna start off with, I never had my cervix checked during any of my appointments, and also this is gonna be like a total TMI video. So if you don't wanna like hear the nitty gritty, don't listen. But I never had my cervix checked because I was told that I could by my high risk doctor that I could like ask my midwife between like 37 plus, but I was trying so hard, and really you only get your cervix checked if they're gonna like membrane sweep you. So I was trying really hard to make it to Gus's surgery date, a rabbit. I talked a lot about that in TikTok, but I was trying to make it to a surgery date because it was scheduled out so far, and it was scheduled on my due date, which was Halloween, by the way. So I did not have them check my cervix. They did offer to do it at my 40-week appointment, and I denied it. And at 42, I went into labor. So it didn't really matter. I do feel like had she membrane sent me that day, like my waters would have broke. But baby decided to come on the day that there's no buses running in town, and it was the day of daylight savings. So thank you, Henry, for that. That was, you know, really great. But on Sunday, November 3rd, he's putting his 2 cents in. On Sunday, November 3rd, I went to the bathroom at 12:45 in the morning, and then I went back to bed, and 10 minutes later, I started to feel water coming. My water broke, but it wasn't like a dramatic water breaking. It was just like, I kind of felt like all of a sudden there was stuff coming, and I booked it to the bathroom. Luckily, did not get any in my bed. Feel proud about that. But yeah, a blood clot came out, and all of the water just like kind of was slowly coming, and then I began to panic because once your water breaks, you're kind of like on a time crunch for your labor to start, and mine did end up starting naturally, but I was like, oh my god, now I have like 24 hours before like I have to be induced, and that means like baby will come within a certain time frame. So I was panicking. And I did want to film. I wanted to film so much of this process. I truly did. I wanted to film like all of it and document it, and I'm very disappointed that I wasn't able to because of the way it went down. But maybe next time, because I want to have 4 kids. 1 down, 3 to go. I did film like, and I'm not going to show it because it's pointless. I filmed like me panicking after my water breaking. I did go and grab Jacob. I think he like heard me get up for the second time. So he said he knew like when I was waking him up that like something was off. But again, like at this point it was like 1 o'clock and the apartment was trashed because Gus had had a surgery on Thursday and this was Sunday. And so we hadn't like picked up or anything. It was like my weekend to like mop and stuff. I mean, I haven't cleaned since then, but it was just messy and I was like already panicked and I was like, well, now I'm not gonna go back to bed. So Jacob and I stayed up for like an hour. I also like ran a load of laundry, which took about 2 hours because I had clothing that like was like, we were not due to do laundry that day, but like potentially Monday or Tuesday. So we were like really behind on laundry and there was stuff that I wanted to bring and like underwear and stuff that I wasn't gonna be able to bring if it wasn't clean. So I threw all that stuff in and then about an hour later, or maybe like half an hour later, I think like half an hour later, I finally like chilled back out and was like, okay, Jacob, like let's go to bed because I want to get some rest. And I'm also like calmed down from that like panic. I did also call the labor ward because they asked you to call when your water broke to go and get checked. But since it was 1 a.m., I called. I ended up speaking to the nurse that not only did our English labor lecture, because they did like a little lecture a few weeks prior just to like prepare you to like meet the staff and like know what was happening. And the nurse that was at the English lecture was the nurse that I spoke to that morning and then also was my nurse right after I gave birth, after the shift change. Went back to bed for like an hour until laundry was done, got up. I think I was like feeling pressure at this point, but I wasn't like feeling like contractions really. But I like knew that was gonna happen. Hung up all the laundry and then went back to bed. Now at this point, it was weird because I definitely started like having contractions, but I thought it was just like prodromal labor, blah, blah, blah. But I could like feel the contractions happening in my sleep, in my dreams, and I knew I was having them. But again, I just thought it was like false labor or like the beginning of not real labor, because some people can be in prodromal labor for like days. So I was like telling myself, no, you're not actually in labor. Woke up at like 7:30, ate breakfast because the labor ward was supposed to like call me back and tell me like when to come in. And so I was told to like be awake at like, or be ready to take that call at like 8 o'clock. And at 8 o'clock, I was having contractions that were like 7 minutes apart, but I felt like they were like frequently infrequent. Like they were 7 minutes like every few. So again, I wasn't really timing them. Made the mistake of not timing my contractions and that bit me in the ass later on when it came to calling for an ambulance. But I waited and waited and waited and my contractions got worse. He says, yeah, that was me. By 10:30, no one called. At this point, the pain was starting to get pretty strong. And so I called and I said, hey, you guys didn't call me back? And they said, yeah, we were just talking about you. We're busy over here. And I was frustrated at this point because I was like, my body can't tell that you're busy. Like something's happening and the pain is getting too much. And they were like, yeah, we'll call you back in an hour and then we'll see where you're at there. So at that point I was a little frustrated because I'd been told like multiple times by my midwife, the high-risk doctor, like if the pain's unbearable, go in and they'll give you morphine. Well, our only way of getting in was like a taxi unless we took an ambulance. So I showered and tried, and the shower did help a little bit, but I think the shower like sped things up. And they do say like when you do pools and stuff and do like water births that it can speed things along. So by 11:30, the pain was becoming too much and I didn't know why. And I was waiting and waiting and we waited past 11:30 because I called at 10:30 and we got to 11:45 and I was like, screw it, I need an ambulance. This pain is too much. We called their version of 911, which is 112 because we're in Sweden. They transferred us to like the labor ward and they were like, no, she needs to take a taxi. And I was like very frustrated with that, but was like, I didn't know you could be denied an ambulance here. Turns out after talking to a lot of people that they do not like to give you an ambulance for labor. I don't know if there's like a shortage or if there's just like not enough resources or what specifically the problem is, but they don't like to do that. Maybe would have rented a car had I known that, had I made it to 40 weeks. We, at that point, tried to get a taxi and it was going to take over an hour. And this was where like the pain intensified and my contractions went down to 5 minutes. And I started to panic. So then Jacob like called back like 5 minutes later and was like, no, we need an ambulance. And they kept, every single time I called, they like went through all of these questions again. And we were like, I like at this point was like, I'm not answering these questions. Like they know the answers to them. They know exactly who I am. We're giving them my personal number, which is like my social security number. Like they're looking me up in the computer. They know I just answered these questions. And they again were like, nope, sorry, we're not giving you an ambulance. And I, at this point, lost it, mental breakdown. The pain was so severe. I was not being able to breathe through it. It was making me shake. I was not able to talk through it. I was like bent over on our kitchen table, just like sobbing uncontrollably because I was like, Jacob, like I'm in the ambulance, like I can't do this. I don't know what's happening. Something's wrong. Like this isn't right. Like it's intensified significantly. And Jacob called back a third time and parents was like, no, you need to give us an ambulance. Like he was panicking over the phone. And they were like, well, we'll get you a taxi. Like 112 was like, we'll look into sending a taxi. And then they must have figured out that we weren't lying, that it was going to take like a really long time. And then they were like, okay, I guess we're going to send you an ambulance. So I was like, okay, I need, like, we live in an apartment complex, but our apartment is like the back part and the parking lot is like the front part. So I was like, I need to make my way out to the parking lot because I don't want to be like carried down the stairs or anything. And I still was like getting a few minutes in between my contractions. I like got myself dressed because Jacob also wasn't gonna be able to take the ambulance. Jacob had to take a taxi because he wasn't gonna be able to like bring all of our stuff. I went down, I made it to like outside the apartment building, had another contraction, made it to the parking lot, like the beginning of the parking lot, had another contraction. And then I made it to a bench at like the beginning of the parking lot. And this is where I lost my shit. And the pain was so unbearable that I was like uncontrollably yelling. And I never thought I would be this patient. I told myself I'd never be this patient. And I probably scared a few people, probably scared a few kids in the apartment complex. I was losing my mind yelling. The pain was unreal. And at this point, the contractions were like 4.5 minutes, like sharp. It took like 45 minutes for the ambulance to get there. And in between that time, I started getting the urge to push. Yeah, I didn't know how far along I was, but the 112 service called back and Jacob was like, she wants to push. Like, Jacob was like, I don't know what you want me to do. So they were like, yeah, they're still a few towns away. Like, we're gonna like do, like they do like, we call it lights and sirens in the US. They call it blue lighting. So they blue lighted the ambulance here, although like I said, it took like 30-45 minutes. And I was just screaming in pain, buckled over in pain in the parking lot, getting lots of weird looks from people. They finally showed up. Luckily it was a female crew. Loved that. Because honestly, I would have felt like a little weird with a male. I don't know. They got me in the ambulance, although it like took a bit because I was still having contractions. They did like, they can't check how dilated you are, but they can like feel down there to make sure there's no head. But I was like, I need to push. Like I'm getting the feeling to push. I don't know why, but like and that was also freaking me out because typically you don't get the urge to push until like you're at the very end. So I was like, oh my God, like, is this baby coming? But she was like, no, I don't feel a head yet. But I think I like scarred the ambulance drivers because I don't think they're probably like used to that and delivering the babies. They did give me laughing gas in the ambulance. They gave me the green whistle. That must be a new thing here in Sweden, common in like the UK and Australia if you know what the green whistle is. It's literally just like, it looks like a long whistle and it has laughing gas in it. I was screaming the whole way in the ambulance. Not the whole way, there were like breaks. I was screaming during the contractions. And then I got to the labor ward at 2 p.m. So in the time that they'd called and we tried to get an ambulance from like 12 to 2 was like, because also it takes like 20 to 30 minutes for you to get there, but they did technically like blue light me, but they weren't like rushing. We got there, I yelled the whole way to the hospital. I think it was practically like naked in the parking lot when they took me out because they did have like a blanket over me, but it wasn't like very super well over me. Got me in there. And it was shift change at 2:30. Things like, again, the pain like started to ramp up and they tried to give me laughing gas and it like really wasn't helping. And I, at this point, like mentally was broken because I'd been in pain for so long and I had no relief. And I was just losing my mind. And this is the part that kind of, like I said, mentally screwed me up because I was like screaming so much. I was like screaming like, help me, please, no one's helping me. I need something for the pain, no one's helping me. Like, I'm in so much pain, like take the baby out. Like I was losing my shit for about 45 minutes after being there until like the staff could like rein me in. But at that point, the pain switched from like contraction pain to all pressure down there. And it turns out when I did show up, I was 5 centimeters. So I don't know what I started at, like I said in the beginning of the video, but I must have been, I was dilating very quickly, which they also don't know like why I got the urge to push quick that soon, potentially because I was dilating so quickly at such a fast pace. They immediately, because I was like writhing and moving in pain so much and yelling like helplessly, they placed a fetal scalp electrode because they knew that the monitors like weren't gonna stay properly on me. That did not bother me at all, didn't hurt at all. Probably hurt him a little bit because, you know, it went to his scalp. And then they denied me morphine because they said he wasn't gonna like it. I think there was a little bit of cord compression for him when I was on my back because they said that he didn't like me being on my back and they needed me to be on my side. And at that point when they denied me morphine, and like I knew on the weekends, they had already told us during the lecture that there was not anesthesiologist like readily, quickly available. That was also mentally tough because the laughing gas was like more distracting me, but like not really helping with the pain at all. So I was still absolutely writhing in pain, essentially unmedicated birth going on. So an hour and a half later, I was 7 centimeters. I was dilating every half an hour a centimeter, which is insane for a first-time mom. I've never been pregnant before. So they don't know why it was just abnormal. And then an hour and a half later, I was 10 centimeters. I did request epidural, but they didn't show up till I was 10 centimeters. And epidurals in Sweden are very different. They are not the ones where they fully numb you. They like don't help with the pressure or anything. They're like considered walking epidurals. So you still are feeling all the pressure. And at that point, all of my pain was pressure. Do I question whether it would have helped with the tearing pain? I do, and I wish I would have thought of that in the moment, but I didn't. In the time that they were like, I was working up to 10 centimeters, they were having me like change positions and trying to get baby to descend. We got to 10 centimeters, they began to have me push at 5 p.m. Mind you, I arrived at 2, and after half an hour, and I was so tired during this, like unbelievably tired. I started falling asleep between contractions and my contractions began to fizzle out. Now, I didn't say anything because it was giving me relief, but like they could see it on the monitor. And at that point they were like, we should start you on Pitocin. We don't want this to be prolonged because also that could cause other issues. I was really reluctant. Pitocin was like one of the things that I like really didn't want, but it was more towards like, I didn't want it if I was being induced in like super early on. So I knew at this point, like I knew with the way my contractions were feeling that like I needed the Pitocin to help. So they started me on Pitocin around like 5:30, and then it helped a little bit, and then things started to fizzle out again at 6:30, or not 6:30, 6 o'clock, and baby needed a little bit of assistance, and I like from the get-go was like, C-section, cut him out, vacuum him out, I don't care. I was like, get him out of me. Like I multiple times had expressed that. I was like, get this child out of me. I want to be done. I'm in so much pain. I'm over this. And after 7 centimeters, I ditched the gas because it wasn't helping. It just wasn't helping at all. At 6 o'clock, they upped my Pitocin again. And like around 6:15, they helped him descend a little bit with the vacuum, but it wasn't like the heavy duty vacuum. They call it either a kiwi or a kiwi. It was hard with their accents to be able to tell. But they did help him descend a little bit. And then they felt like I wasn't gonna need it for the delivery, and also like using a vacuum can tear you more. The nurse or the midwife had like a death grip after they helped him descend on his head and was like not letting him go back up. Then they let him descend more, let him sit at the ring of fire, which I think, and I'm glad pouty face. They let him sit at the ring of fire, which I was told was good because it helps you tear less. But I think when they were helping him descend or at the ring of fire around that time when I tore, I'm lucky I didn't think about, oh my God, I'm tearing right now, because I would have been losing my mind. But the ring of fire was so bad. It was so bad. And the doctor still, either the doctor or the nurse or midwife still had their hands in there, and that was unbearable. And then right before the ring of fire, they also had to swap his fetal scalp electrode because it was going to impede him from descending. So that hurt a ton. I think she must have been like touching one of the tears when she was doing the scalp electrode, because there was like one part where it felt like she was taking her fingernails and like digging my whole side in. And I know that's not what she was doing, but that was terrible as well. I also did get straight cath twice, and then after I ended up with a catheter, but that honestly was not that big of a deal in comparison to everything else that happened. They delivered him at 6:28, which is crazy because my birthday is June 28th, 6:28. Also, I was in room 6. Also, he was born on a Sunday and I was born on a Sunday. So some like weird coincidental things that happened. They delivered him. He had great APGAR scores. He was only like 1 point off because he turned a little bit blue at one point, and I just stimmed him and he came back in 2. He was 8 pounds 1 ounce, 20 inches long. He was 3,660 grams and 51 centimeters, if anyone Swedish is watching this, because they do grams and centimeters. And after that, we are going to discuss my tearing. I think maybe I'll do like a part 2 of discussing my tearing and like everything after the birth. But yeah, that was the crazy part of the birth. There were complications afterwards. Complications in terms of me going to the OR, complications in terms of me after birth. So stay tuned for part 2 to see what I talk about and like what happened, because it was crazy.